When I say the name Jamie Oliver, you're probably going to think of this.
Oh, no, 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 no.
A British white boy brutalizing some poor innocent Asian recipe and getting rightfully bullied for it by Asians online. But if you're a little bit older, you might remember him for this.
That's what this is.
Chicken.
When you get a chicken like this, there's bits on it that are worth lots of money. The breasts are the most expensive part. It's the biggest and it's the white meat, okay? And that is a chicken breast, okay? Now, chicken wings are worth quite a lot of money. I showed them where all the nice cuts of meat came off the chicken. So we just pop the legs off and then you're left with a carcass with all the ribs and the little bits of giblets and blood and skin and stuff like that. What do you think happens to this?
It gets thrown away.
You want to eat some? You want to eat some? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story about how you can use all the leftover bits to make food. And watch me. Some of the processed foods that you love are made from the bits you don't like. Bone, all the connective tissues, little bits of bone marrow and stuff like that. They even add chicken skin. Put a load of chicken skin in here as well. Okay, so then once they've done that, pour the wound up meat and bone and skin and like bits of horrible bits, and they put it into a massive great machine that squeezes all the soft stuff away from the gangly hard stuff. Look at it.
Ooh, it's all going through. It's totally awesome.
What's the good meat? That or that?
That.
And what kind of meat is that?
The horrible.
Okay, so because this has got loads of connective tissue and things that really aren't meat, to be honest, you've got to put loads of stuff in it. Stabilise it with stabiliser, you know, flavouring in there to make it taste of something nice instead of something horrible. Once they've done that, they mix it all up and make this big load of gunk. And then guess what we can do?
What?
We can get a cutter and cut out our very own patty. Just like that. Put some breadcrumbs on it. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, our very own patty. And all we do is whack them in a pan. Lovely. Now, who would still eat this?
A random grown man getting genuinely upset that kids still like chicken nuggets after he dishonestly tried to make a technique that reduces food waste seem gross and icky. And in one of the few cases of this dumpster fire of a cartoon doing something right, getting rightfully bullied for it on South Park. I do not care for South Park, argue with the wall. Most people who know these things about him have a strong distaste for Jamie Oliver, myself included, and it's very easy to see why. His arguments against why some foods are good and others are bad has little to do with actual nutritional backing and seems based almost entirely in both a childish, actually given this video that's an insult to actual children, squeamishness towards icky foods that's entirely unbecoming of a supposed professional chef, and a deep sense that he is somehow intellectually and morally superior to the people who eat outside of his tax bracket. Now, my dear British friends, I am just an American outsider looking in, but from what I can make out of the culture and from what actual British people have said, British people are the D1 level athletes of classism. No one does it like y'all. Between the nepotism, the income inequality, and the fact that Brits can actually vaguely tell each other's economic backgrounds from their accents alone, British classism is on a whole nother level compared to what we've got going on here in the States. This gives us a bit of a cultural background as to how and why Jamie Oliver is so damn stupid about how and why poor and working class people eat the way they do. In his mind, which is far outside the boundaries of what we consider to be fucking reality, the dirty, slubby poors eat the nasty, yucky bits of the chicken because they're too stupid, lazy, selfish, and cheap to know any better, and need a kind, rich, white savior to teach them to eat in the clean way he does. This mindset is why the other reason people might know of him happened. getting the beloved British snack Turkey Twists banned from the country, and people are right to be pissed at him for it. Where does this Nimrod get off on telling the working class how to eat? The video Jamie Oliver's War on Nuggets by Dan Olson makes this point better than I can, but people aren't eating fast food and frozen meals because they're lazy or stupid. It's because of this simple fact. If you worked all day in the bloody mines for shite wages to put a roof over your kids' heads, clothes on their backs, and food on the table, what food are you going to spend your hard earned money on to put on that table? Are you going to spend it on the expensive ingredients that you can't get much of with the money you have, that you have to spend your already drained energy and precious little time cooking, or the cheap, pre-cooked frozen food that you can buy more of to have more available meals for your family and spend less time and energy cooking so that you can get some rest, do something you enjoy, and spend some quality time with your loved ones? Jamie doesn't understand this. He is incapable of understanding this. This is a man who is so out of touch with the economic reality of the majority of the human population that he helped get 2-for-1 pizza deals banned in Scotland because he was genuinely stupid enough to believe that people are using it to eat too much unhealthy food instead of, just trying to be able to afford to eat at all. Jamie Oliver is incapable of understanding working class struggles because the interests of his class are antithetical to ours. I'm about to go into some real commie shit for a minute, so buckle up. Jamie Oliver is bourgeois. His class interests are diametrically opposed to those of the people he's preaching to. He doesn't have to work for a living. He hasn't had to in years. He doesn't work, he owns. He's got 70 restaurants from which he extracts surplus value and exploits the labor of the working class. He's so alienated from the idea of what it means to work for a living that he is incapable of understanding actual working class needs and motivations. All he can do is whine when people call him out on it. This silver spoon bastard can fuck right off with his crappy food and crappier ideas. Just looking at this sad sack makes me want to give him a swirly. If you went to a public school in America and took a health or PE class, chances are you've seen this movie. Looking back on it as a hopefully wiser adult, this movie is repulsive. It has that same talking down to you because you're clearly too dumb to understand that eating fast food every day for every meal probably isn't great for you energy as every other sentence out of Jamie Oliver's mouth, and it's combined with this gross, dehumanizing camera work and language about fat people. The documentary director and lead, known and admitted sexual harasser Morgan Spurlock, seemed creepily dedicated to talking about fat people as if they're just a bunch of brainless dumbasses who are only fat because they eat greasy quarter pounders all day, and invites the audience to do the same. There's no need to actually think about fat people as human beings with needs, wants, feelings, and desires. You can just edit at their faces out of your creep shot footage and showcase their bodies as a bad example freak show to millions of kids for years to come. You hear that, incredibly cruel elementary to high school age children of America? Now you have a morally justified excuse to bully any classmate above a certain BMI until they attempt suicide or develop an eating disorder. It's for their own good. Super Size Me portrays itself as a scientific experiment. Spurlock bravely being his own guinea pig and daring to eat McDonald's every day for every meal for 30 days. Here's the outline of his experiment so you can see for yourselves what he was doing. But the beauty of science is that every experiment is meant to be repeated, and repeated it was. Almost as soon as people started attempting the experiment for themselves, Spurlock's claims started falling apart faster than a stale Big Mac bun. No one who replicated the experiment got the same results he did. One of the biggest reasons why that is that Spurlock was conveniently neglecting to mention that he was drinking like his name was BoJack Horseman the whole time and lied about it on screen. Eating McDonald's for every meal may not be the best option for you, but it sure as hell doesn't do this shit to your liver. This fucking moron has been misleading kids and educators alike for decades and got away with it because he A. lied and B. confirmed people's biases that the poor and the fat are lazy, stupid, and greedy. I stay smoking that Morgan Spurlock pack. Rest in piss, bozo. From the years 2007 to 2009, Brian Wansink was the executive director of the USDA's Center for Nutrition Policy and Promotion, and held the John S. Dyson Endowed Chair in the Applied Economics and Management Department at Cornell University, making him the head of the Cornell Food and Brand Lab. Wansink holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, an MA in Journalism and Mass Communication, and a PhD in Marketing. Wansink was fascinated by human behavior, particularly how corporations and social behavior could make decisions to deceive people into eating more than they wanted or needed. He was particularly fascinated by the concept of mindless eating, and his bottomless bowl experiment won them the satirical scientific award, the Ig Nobel Prize. In 2006, Wansink published his book Mindless Eating: Why We Eat More Than We Think, which was cited by National Action Against Obesity. He is also the author of a study that claimed eating with fat people makes you more likely to make poor nutritional choices. Wansink's success was not built to last, however, because in 2017 almost all of his work was called into question, leading to a chain of events that led to 18 of his studies being retracted, one of them twice, because he was caught, among other things, p-hacking, which is essentially fucking with the data to get the results that he wanted, the results more likely to get his work published. In 2018, Cornell concluded that he was guilty of scientific misconduct, removed him from teaching and research duties, and he resigned, which went into effect in 2019. Let this be a lesson to never trust a business major. I want you to, for a brief second, close your eyes and imagine something for me. What comes to your mind when I say bad food? Is it food that you dislike personally, or food you believe is detrimental to your health? Is it high in sugar, fat, sodium? How much do you think it costs? Now, let's try the opposite. Imagine a good food. Does it taste good to you? What does it look like? Is it a fruit, a vegetable, a cut of lean meat? Is it low in fat, sugar, or sodium? What is it high in? What vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients? How much does it cost? What makes a food good, and what makes a food bad? While you're pondering that question, actually, I'm going to bring forth the actual answer, because there is an answer. The answer is nothing. According to most dietitians, there's nothing productive or healthy about arbitrarily sorting food into this black and white morality system. It fosters a culture of restrictive and disordered eating, because assigning a moral value to certain food items indirectly assigns moral values to the people who eat them, leading to spirals of guilt and shame and restricting and binging with no end in sight. There's no such thing as an empty calorie. All food has a certain nutritional content. Even the greasiest, sugariest, most decadent food has nutrients. Fat, salt, and sugar, those are nutrients. Your body needs those. It breaks them down into usable proteins and energy, and I don't have a biochemistry degree, but generally, food is fuel. Sure, some nutrients are easy to get too much of, and you shouldn't be eating them too often, but that doesn't make food with high amounts of these particular nutrients quote unquote bad. A burger or a cupcake is not morally inferior to an apple, in the same way Jamie Oliver's chicken nuggets are not morally superior, no matter how much he pretends they are, to Tyson's Dino Nuggies. And he's not even trying to assert that his recipe is even more nutritionally balanced. He just thinks they're better because they're not using the nasty, yucky parts of the chicken that people who don't own 70 restaurants can't afford to throw away. You shouldn't be going around taking away people's access to food you deem unhealthy and bad because it's higher in some nutrients and lower in others. What you should be doing is making it easier to access a wide variety of foods, like vegetables, higher quality meats, fruits. When's the last time you've seen guys like Jamie advocating for all access community gardens and food welfare programs? He doesn't. He just wants to control other people and feel better than them. And then he goes to America and cries over getting dunked on by second graders. It seems that, after years of harassing, medical gaslighting, and ignoring their fat patients and advocating for parents to send their kids to abusive camps to get starved to death, Doctors finally realized that even eating healthy and regular exercise doesn't just magically make everybody skinny. You can still do that stuff and be fat. Did they give up the ghost and stop pathologizing the diversity of the human body? No, they switched gears to prescribing diabetes drugs that fuck with your birth control. Why on earth would they do this shit instead of prioritizing their patients' health and not the numbers on their scales? Is it because they're still clinging to the very outdated idea that body fat percentage has a one-to-one correlation with human health? The same idea that justifies the extreme medical neglect of fat patients via blaming everything on their weight? That's definitely part of it, but here's another big issue.
Money. Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around. Money makes the world go around, it makes the world go round.
There is one common thread that ties all of these separate stories together. One theme that was blaring out at me as I assembled this video. The nature of capitalism is that anything and everything, including human beings, even though slavery is legal, it still happens, are now commodities to be bought and sold. Anything can be sold for a profit, and everyone has something to sell you.
Money talks, money talks. Dirty cash, I want you, and dirty cash, I need you.
Jamie Oliver has bland food and utensils and cookbooks full of butchered Asian recipes for white moms to call themselves cultured for cooking to sell. And to do that, he's trying to convince you that your food is dirty and gross and his food is good and clean. This is how he made his millions. Morgan Spurlock had a movie to sell, and judging from the box office, he succeeded. Of course he was going to lie and bullshit his way into fame and fortune. Real science wouldn't make as much money.
Money, money, money must be funny in the rich man's world.
No one knew this better than Brian Wansink. He had studies to sell, salaries and grant money to earn. And even though scientists don't get paid for academic publishing, it still got eyes on his papers, social capital, which could lead to money capital over time if the right people got interested in funding him. The multi-billion-dollar diet industry has programs and diets and supplements and God knows what else to sell you. So it subtly convinces you that you're worse of a person for not buying their junk. Halo Top, lesser evil, it never fucking ends. Weight loss drug manufacturers have a ludicrous amount of money to make in selling them, and the doctors promoting them are getting benefits too. Novo Nordisk, the manufacturer of Ozempic, has, as of an article published in 2023, spent $11 million on meals and flights for the doctors they're trying to get to prescribe their drugs. People are profiting off of your insecurities, and not even satisfied with that, like the blood-sucking ghouls that they are trying to plant new ones in your brain. Don't eat these dirty, nasty, cheap nuggets. Buy my cookbook and spend your hard-earned cash and time cooking my recipe. Here's a cookbook full of quick, cheap recipes so you don't have an excuse not to. Never mind the fact that they are most likely neither. Pay to see my cash grab, scientific documentary about how all fat people are stupid pigs and that McDonald's, but definitely not me, are manipulating you. Pay me attention and give me grant money so I can tell you that all your fat friends are ruining your life. What do you mean I made all that shit up? I'm a serious scientist. I would never. Look how good you're being for eating our clean, guilt-free, low-fat, low-carb, low-sugar, low-joy diet. Don't be bad and sinful by actually trying to eat like a happy, functional person and enjoy it. Fix your errant, abnormal, disgusting body that falls outside of our strictly defined cultural beauty norms by buying this drug we formulated for people with a real medical condition that you do not have. Ignore that laundry list of side effects, some of which could potentially kill you. We, as the proletariat, are beset on all sides, constantly being attacked by a repulsive and obscene amount of propaganda in the form of advertising, teaching us to subscribe to ideas and norms that we're told are good and natural, that just so happen to slot very neatly into the business model that robs the developing world and puts cash into the pockets of the elite. We're too busy trying to make sense of the mess that they made just to not starve that we don't have the time or energy to dedicate to questioning or challenging this destructive status quo. At this point, I think I'm starting to wonder, if the healthiest thing that you and I could eat is the rich. I want to give all of you a massive round of applause for making my last video so popular. It has gotten more attention than I could ever imagine. I made a video yapping about how my favorite obscure YouTube cartoon is good, and then y'all just made it blow up. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Sorry if the audio quality is still shitty. I still don't have a microphone and I'm experimenting with new ways of trying to make the audio less shitty. I'm currently recording this sitting under a blanket in my room. Uh, Here let me give some closing remarks. Fat phobia and diet culture are topics I care very strongly about. I actually wrote my final high school paper on it. Sorry if I seem less level-headed and calm as I did in my last video because this topic pisses me off so bad. I'm not fat myself, I'm mid-size at most, but I hate seeing what this kind of attitude and behavior does to people, including my own friends and family. It's an issue tied up in a lot of capitalistic profit-seeking, and what isn't? But it makes me sad to see so few other socialists even try thinking about it or re-examining their biases. Sorry if this video is kind of jarring compared to my last content. I went from talking about haha funny YouTube cartoon to communism. Uh, so you know that about me now. In the description, I have a bunch of links to sources that I got my information from, as well as videos and articles to help you dig further yourself. I highly recommend you take a look at the Brian Wansink studies that got detracted in particular, because a lot of his advice and conclusions drawn from false premises are still kicking around in the public imagination, and nothing would make me happier to see that all the bullshit he built is crumbling down around him. I also find it utterly hilarious that Jamie calls these poor kids brainwashed for not caring that food doesn't look delicious while it's still being prepared. He's the least mature person in the room. It's absolute toddler behavior and he should be ashamed of himself. Signing off, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, be it me yapping about cartoons and Hunter the Parenting, or socialism. Thank you.